Hi, in this lesson, I want to start looking at the reality of the preservation of dinosaurs. So far in the course, we've been looking very much in a theoretical way at how we classify dinosaurs. But we need to dig into a little bit of how these fossils are preserved and how we can start to interpret the remains that we find in a fossil deposit. For this lesson, we're going to be working on pages 10 and 11 of your Theme Zero booklet. And for this lesson as well, it'd help to have a coloured pencil or a highlighter. Okay then, let's go. Hopefully you've already watched a video about this fossil deposit. It's an amazing place. The official name is the Carnegie Quarry at Dinosaur National Monument up in the mountains of Utah in America. The unofficial name for it is the Wall of Bones. This is an incredible dinosaur deposit from the Jurassic period. You can see in the photograph here how the US National Park Service have actually erected a building around this to preserve these fossils and also to allow people to go and visit and to see just the wealth of fossil material that's available in this one very specific location. The video was talking about the sheer diversity of fossils that are in this particular quarry wall. But we're going to focus on one type of fossil in particular. It's the first of a couple of parts of the lesson looking at a fascinating dinosaur called Stegosaurus. And we're going to look at the fossils of a stegosaur from one part of the quarry face. If you look at the diagram on page 11 in the top right hand corner, you can see the locations on the quarry face that we're actually looking at these fossils. Looking at this photo, it's sort of the top left hand corner of the image. The diagram you have spread across pages 10 and 11, which is one complete diagram. Unfortunately, the way these booklets are photocopied, I can't have it as a continuous diagram, I'm afraid. But this diagram is the record made by the paleontologist recording the fossils from this one part of the Wall of Bones. And in particular, it's highlighting the stegosaur bones. These stegosaur bones have all been identified and given a code number. You can see numbers recorded on each of the bones that are still shown in white on this particular image. What I'd like you to do, first of all, is to estimate how much of a complete stegosaur skeleton is preserved in this image. You can see at the bottom of page 10 a reconstruction of a complete stegosaur skeleton. How much of that skeleton do you think you're looking at when we look at this record of the fossil deposit? Write down your estimate and the answer to question 5A. Remember, this question is about what you think. So write down the number that occurs to you. Don't worry too much about whether it's the right answer or the wrong answer. What I want you to get is your opinion on this. Once we've done that, I'd then like you to try and show how much of the fossil is actually remaining. To do this, for each of the bones that's numbered, I'd like you to identify what the number is. use the key to the bones then that's at the bottom of page 11, cross the bone off the list on the table, and then I'd like you to colour that bone in on the complete skeleton. It'd be a good idea as well to colour the same bone in on the fossil deposit as well, just so that we can see which bones we've taken account of and which ones we haven't. So for example, in the bottom left hand corner of this diagram, there's a bone there labelled 4144. So if I colour that one in, because that's the one I've dealt with, I then check on the key, I see bone number 4144 is a plate. I'll then go to the diagram I have of the complete Stegosaurus skeleton, and I colour in one of those plates to show that that's what's recorded on the fossil deposit. If we work our way across the whole of that diagram, colouring in each bone as you identify as we go, we should get a sense of how much of that stegosaur is actually preserved. Okay, it's time to press pause now and have a go at that activity. Make sure that you record the bones that are preserved on the complete skeleton and cross off the ones that you've actually looked at the fossil deposit and on the table to help you work out what you've covered and what you haven't. There are some of these bones, when you look at the key, you'll need to think about a little bit. For example, the dorsal ribs. Where do you think they're going to be on the fossil? Okay, press pause now and have a go at that. Okay then, so by now we should have parts of our skeleton of the Stegosaurus coloured in. We should have an idea of how much of that stegosaur has been preserved in this fossil deposit. If I show you what I've come up with, if I work through all of the bones in this deposit and then colour them in on the Stegosaurus, we should see something that looks maybe a little bit like this. You can see that not all of the stegosaur has been preserved. There are a few key parts, a few parts that have preserved quite well, but other places where there are significant bones missing. Having done this then, how much of the stegosaur do you think has been preserved? What percentage is actually there? Can we now answer question C to estimate what now, having seen the record from the deposit, how much is actually present? Let's go back to the fossil deposit. What do we see about how this dinosaur has been preserved? It may be different from how you'd expect a dinosaur fossil to be seen in the rock. You know, we may expect that actually in the rock what we find are complete dinosaurs just buried, waiting to be uncovered. But something has happened here. Why do you think we haven't got all of the bones from the Stegosaurus? We're missing some really important ones. The caudal spikes, for example, are absent. Large parts of the pelvis are missing. The skull is absent. Why do you think that is? What's happened to this dinosaur in between the dinosaur dying and it being buried in this deposit? Why do we have the bones spread out like this? Something must have caused it. What do you think that is? Not only that, but we've got a huge range of bones of very different species of dinosaurs preserved here. Why might that be? What's put all of these dinosaur bones together in a scatter like we see in this diagram? What type of environment do you think it was like to collect the bones like this? What I'd like you to do is I'd like to add annotations to this diagram across pages 10 and 11 in your booklet. What can we work out about these fossils? What do you think is the most likely situation that's led to the formation of this deposit? Now, we're not going to know for sure unless we have a time machine to take us back to the Jurassic. But as geologists, what we're looking to do is come up with the best possible interpretation of the information like this that we have in front of us. What do you think the most probable cause of this might be? There may be even a couple of different interpretations you can come up with. Put your eyes and ears down in some annotation around the diagram. Something else to think about. This is a reconstruction of a Stegosaurus. A fossil find about 4 years ago of, if you like, a stegosaur graveyard, where lots of different stegosaur animals have been preserved, found an interesting thing. There were two groups of shapes of the plates found on the back of a Stegosaurus. And these were interpreted as being the difference between male and female stegosaurs. With male stegosaurs seeming to have a rounder plate, and a female stegosaur having a narrower, more pointed plate. Knowing this, can we say anything more about the stegosaur that's preserved here at Dinosaur National Monument? What evidence might there be for your interpretation? Okay, have a go at those questions, see what you can come up with. So that's questions C and D. If you finish those, have a go at digging deeper. What else do you think paleontologists and geologists might be able to work out from a place like Dinosaur National Monument? What else might the rocks tell us? Put your answers on a post-it note and stick them to page 11 of your booklet. In the next lesson, we'll start to think about how stegosaurs got around. I'll see you then.